Hello, it's me, Gary Bolter here from the Outcast Creative, and I'm supposed to be doing a posh intro to the best of British drama, a special news section on the Outcast Creative channel where we look at the best of British television drama and talk about some of the best shows you absolutely should track down and watch. Now, there'll be a new intro sequence for this starting from next week, but it's not ready yet. So unfortunately, you don't get it today. In the meantime, however, you can just put up with me. So, there is a new intro sequence coming, especially for this section. Anyone who knows me well will know that pretty much since the late 80s, I have digested British television drama, miniseries, in particular, things that tend to run for kind of 6 episodes and they're all done. This kind of stuff. And one of the things that we have been very good at doing is we've done a number of what I would call them true crime feature films. So, for example, I would cite as an example of that Hillsborough, which was made in, I think it was 96, directed by Charles McDougall, written by Jimmy McGovern, produced by Nicola Schindler at Red Productions, which is one of the best independent British drama production companies, and she's also one of the best British producers that we have. And I'm going to be shining a light on British shows that I think you should watch, including some older ones. And we're going to be looking at 2 tonight. And one of these is currently available on ITV Player, ITV.com, which is The Long Shadow. The second of these, this is personal. There are a couple of different links for it on YouTube, and these both cover the same subject, and I'll get into that in just a sec. But that is also available to watch for free on YouTube. The link that you want to watch is the one with all of the adverts cut out. It was originally a 2-part miniseries. Each part was a feature film in length. They've now been edited and put together by somebody, and there's like a 3-hour, 20-minute running time of This Is Personal, The Hunt for the Yorkshire Ripper. The Long Shadow, the title meaning it cast a very long shadow over that part of the country and many people's lives, also covers exactly the same topic. Now, the 2 films are 23 years apart in terms of production. This Is Personal was made in the year 2000. The Long Shadow was made very recently. I think it was shot in 2022. Both of them have, apart from the subject matter that they're taking on, both of them have one thing in common, and that is that they have absolutely first-rate, fantastic casts in the various lead roles. Most people will be more familiar with The Long Shadow because it's literally just dropped just a couple of weeks ago. I was so engrossed in this drama, I actually binge watched it all night. I stayed up until 6 in.the.morning to finish watching it. That probably wasn't very sensible. I had hoped to be joined by a co-host this evening, but unfortunately they had to drop out, and I'm not feeling amazing myself. I'm also due to pop onto Retro Nerd Girls channel, I think at 9. So I'm going to try and keep this around an hour. But if you have any questions for me about the show or the topic, please do chip in. So I'll talk about the shows individually first, and then I don't think it's a question of one is better than the other. I'll just say this up front. I think these are both very good British drama shows, extremely well made. The older production has actually aged pretty well. And The Long Shadow has a number of I would say, sort of modern production inputs, which I think greatly benefited. Not least of which is the emphasis on the victims. But let's talk about them individually. So both films, as I say, cover the hunt for the Yorkshire Ripper. If you don't know about the Yorkshire Ripper, he was a serial killer based in the Yorkshire area, and he was targeting women predominantly, but not exclusively, prostitutes, and killing them, according to the person in question, because he was hearing voices in his head. He was a happily married man, for all intents and purposes, quite an ordinary bloke. And there were a number of slip-ups in the police investigation, early on and throughout it, which led to him being caught a lot later than he should have been. And of course, more people died as a result of this. There was also some other elements that came into play, including the fact that initially the police only thought the Ripper was killing prostitutes, and therefore they discounted other attacks, which, as it turned out, some were attributed to him. Then there was also a letter, 2 letters, and a tape sent by the same person purporting to be the Ripper, and a huge amount of police time and resources were wasted on trying to find out the identity of the person behind the tape and the letters, who turned out not to be Jack the Ripper now, or the Yorkshire Ripper. Now, one of the things that's interesting is that that person was identified and prosecuted recently, and that only, as I said, that only came to light recently. And it's interesting that that is covered in the new production in The Long Shadow. It's not covered in This Is Personal, because at the time he was not known. It was not known who had done the tapes and the letters. Now, I'll cover The Long Shadow first. I think that the Long Shadow is a very slick production. It's got great attention to detail with the production design. You do feel that this show is set in its time. It's a very good depiction of the whole story, and it covers the murders from the very beginning, including the early ones, whereas This Is Personal starts 2 years later. This Is Personal starts when George Oldfield, who was a quite experienced detective, high-ranking detective, took over the case from the previous team and brought all the forces together under one banner. So we're about 4 murders in, whereas The Long Shadow starts at the very beginning and also de facto covers a number of earlier mistakes. So looking at The Long Shadow first, the Yorkshire Ripper, he was still known as Jack the Ripper to us down in London, because of course the tapes, we could hear them. You could dial a number and you could hear this guy's voice, the fake guy, but the tape started with "I'm Jack," and so we all thought we were hearing the actual guy. Now, this case had huge press all over the UK, and although of course it was focused in Yorkshire, it was scaring the crap out of people down in London. People changed behaviours, all of these kinds of things. And I remember a great deal of stuff around this time about the whole thing. So it's interesting to see a time that I lived through being played out in these drama shows. Now, Peter Sutcliffe, as he was actually known, the Yorkshire Ripper, he murdered 13 people. He injured another 7. He's officially suspected of at least one other murder and suspected of injuring 2 other people. There could be more. So The Long Shadow is a 4-part. So each episode is about. No, sorry, it's not 4 parts. I think it's 6. Let's just get into the cast list here. Sorry, 7 episodes. That's right. 7 1-hour episodes, give or take a few minutes. The show opens very strongly, and the person running the case is played by Toby Jones. So you're straight away you're into big name actors that we've seen in other shows before. You may recognize the actor on the right as playing the role of Duncan from The Last of the Mohicans. He actually lives not far from me. David Morrissey, people will recognize from shows like The Walking Dead and so on. I'm just keen to see if we've got Toby Jones here in a still anywhere. That's a heartbreaking moment with those kids. So here he is. So one of the things that's really one of the strengths that The Long Shadow has is it gives a huge amount of screen time to the victims of this case, and I think that that's really important. Not just the victims, but to some of their family members, their parents, their children. It's not a huge plethora of scenes, but these are important scenes. These are important ramifications of what this man did to the lives that he destroyed. And Toby Jones's character is in charge of investigating the case initially, and it takes over his whole life, and it affects his health, and he can't seem to catch the man. So the red light areas were being targeted in kind of Halifax, Leeds, Barnsley, places like that in Yorkshire. And the police investigation stalls for a number of reasons, because the police system wasn't properly computerized then. In fact, this was the case that made it become computerized. The tapes caused a huge distraction and a number of false reports, all of which, of course, had to be processed. But in the end, he was caught more by chance and luck than by police guile, cunning, and investigation. He was in their system. He'd been interviewed about 7 times. I think actually maybe it might have been 9 times. So the actors in the show are all first class. This is a first class cast in a first class looking production. I was extremely impressed by everybody in this production, and let's go through the cast, as I like to do. And as per normal, I will give out lesser well-known actors a shout out. So you've got the likes of people like Lee Ingleby playing one of the main DCIs in the show. You will have seen him in things like Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, Last Legion, Master and Commander, of course. He plays the guy who's kind of cursed and in the end jumps over the side. He's played coppers in a number of other shows. I've actually met him a long time ago. Very nice guy. Great to see him in this. And I think he's a first-class actor. I really like him. I rate him highly. Other members of the cast, you've got Jack Dean. So Jack Dean might be so well known to some people, but he was in is it Southland, the show where the guy goes mad with the rifle and his wife gets killed. I want to know the name of that production, so I'm just gonna check it. Unusual miniseries, not one that I would put up and say is the best of British. It's a little bit too, unless I'm confusing him with a different actor. Maybe I am. No, I thought it was okay. No, all right. I've seen him in a few other things. Again, a jobbing TV actor, very good, always very believable. You can see his CV here is pretty extensive. Done a lot of television. And I thought that there was one other role I'd seen him in, but I think that's right, and he was in Hillsborough. Yeah. The PC that's has to change his statement. I remember that. Yeah, Jack Dean, good actor. You've got some fairly well-known household names. So we have, for example, the likes of David Morrissey, who I mentioned earlier, who's playing the lead role of Detective Inspector Oldfield, who in the end ultimately ends up leading the investigation. George Oldfield, or he might be an assistant commissioner actually. Detective Inspector Dick Holland is played by Steve Wellington. He does a perfectly fine job. And this detective in particular had a very deep, sort of booming voice. And both the actors that play him emulate him pretty well. Stephen Wellington, as I mentioned before, you might have seen in things like Last of the Mohicans, which he's very, very good in. Marcella Claxton plays a great part in this, and she's relatively new. She's done a couple of plays. She's also had a play premiere at the Royal Court. She's fantastic in this. I would mark her as an actress to watch out for. She plays an early victim of the Ripper who survives, isn't believed, is painted as a prostitute when she wasn't one, and on that basis is not allowed to get compensation and had to fight for it for many years. Now, that is a story that's not been covered in any Ripper dramas before. I don't recall hearing about it in any of the Ripper documentaries, so I think it's particularly good that that was covered here, and I give the show massive props for doing that. Some other jobbing British actors that I've seen in a few things also pop up in this, like Chloe Harris, John Henshaw, Victoria Myers is someone I've become aware of fairly recently. He's also very good. James Clay, very good. Stephen Tompkins, of course, people will know from the miners' strike drama, Brassed Off, and from dramas like Harrigan. And of course, he was a regular in Drop the Dead Donkey. Again, great role for him in this. Everybody's on their A game in this show. And I think that's partly because, you've got some first-class actors there. So people are going to want to, be on their top-notch performance level. We have also got some great people in supporting roles. Daniel Mays does a particularly good turn as a guy who is wrongly presumed to be a potential Ripper suspect. I've just seen him recently in Guys and Dolls on the London stage, and he's an actor that I'm growing increasingly fond of, because he's really actually showing people that he's got more of a range than perhaps people previously thought. Emma Cunliffe is an old hand. She used to be in the show about the Lake District. I think it was just called The Lakes. I think it was called, and she plays Oldfield's wife. Nice to see her in this, because I hadn't seen her for a while, and she's an actress I've always liked. So it's a really good cast. No bad eggs. No one I'm gonna. I probably wouldn't do that anyway, but it's just a very, very good cast. And we've also got quite a few newcomers. There's a couple of child actors that are very good. So you're going to really admire the abilities of the cast in this show. One of the other things I have to give the show props for is I think it handles the sensitive elements of this story extremely well. As I said, it gives a lot of screen time to the victims of the Yorkshire Ripper story, which you wouldn't normally get. And this is definitely, when I heard that this was coming out, I remembered the Alun Armstrong production that we're going to talk about in a sec. And I thought, oh, they're doing another one on it already. And I didn't realize it was 23 years ago. But they really did cover a lot of stuff that is not covered in that drama. So these pieces companion each other. But the emphasis here is on a very balanced view of both the police investigation and the impact on the victims, and also some backstory to why some of the girls ended up working the streets as they did in that time, so that you have a genuine understanding of the circumstances that led to them being in that situation. And I think that's right and proper that time is given in the story. So for me, I really like The Long Shadow. It's extremely well shot. Script is good. Performances are good. Particularly from Morrissey and Toby Jones as the two different lead investigators, and all the supporting cast in the investigation team. The ladies in the show, and there's a few unknowns, are also really great. So I've already mentioned Marcella Claxton, who's seen here with her partner. And then we have, that's one of the directors. This chap is another one of the investigating team. He's a perfectly great actor. Didn't get to do perhaps as much as the others. So this is one of the actresses who, if I remember rightly, this is a copper who goes undercover. And these two child actors are the children of the Ripper's first official victim. And we pick up on their story a bit later as well. Really well handled. I do love the fashions from back in the day. So all of the cast, it's really good. So I haven't rated it on here yet. I'm going to rate it now. I'm going to rate it a 9 out of 10. So it's a 9 out of 10 from me for The Long Shadow. I highly recommend it. If you're into true crime, you're definitely going to like it, if that's the right word. It's extremely well done. And yeah, I can't praise it enough, really. And I just think that the amount of time that they spent on the victims and their circumstances and stuff like that is a credit to the show, that they gave those people a bit more of a voice than they would have otherwise had. So that's The Long Shadow. There was a couple of other actresses I wanted to give shout outs to, but who played some of the victims, but I can't pick them out right now without going through this one at a time. So we'll have to skip that. Needless to say, ladies, you were good. Okay, so moving on to This Is Personal. Now we're going back 23 years. This production, starring Alun Armstrong, James Lawrenson, who I met on a train once going to Sheffield, funnily enough, is very much told from the point of view of the police investigation. Sorry, I'm just going to blow my nose, fighting a horrible cold here. Oh dear, that's better. So it's from the police point of view There's a little bit of time given to the fallout on people, but not a lot. Not a lot. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not good. It is good. It's an extremely well-made drama. Richard Ridings is the sort of the second in command. Dick Holland, extremely good actor, again with the booming deep voice. John Duttine, some people may remember him from the BBC 1980s production Day of the Triffids. Again, he's another one of the detectives. Now, what we get more a sense of in This Is Personal is the inter-conflicts within the police. Different people having different views about how the investigation should proceed, and the kind of internal battles that went on over that. So I thought there might be a couple of pictures of Mr. Duttine in the show, but sadly not. Okay, so you've got Stephen Moore, who was in Bridge Too Far, who sadly I think has passed away. Passed away in 2019. I believe he's Michael McIntyre's father-in-law. I might have that wrong, but I think it's him. And so you've got there's a lot of more unknowns in the cast here, but there are a couple of people who went on to really massive things in this show. So I'll talk about them quickly as we're sticking with cast. There's a couple of people who had small parts who went on to have rather big careers. Gerard Honran is a great actor. You will have seen him in absolutely loads of things, but let me scroll further down. Look who it is. Dominic Monaghan from Lord of the Rings. He is in this show. So, yeah, only a bit part, couple of scenes, but he's in it. So, yeah, going back to 2000, not long before Lord of the Rings went into production. That probably would have been his last job. Also in the show, which reminded me that me and her had met a long time ago at the Jackson's Lane Theatre. Vinette Robinson, who you can currently see in the feature film Boiling Point, which I've talked about on the channel many times before. She has a small role as the sister of one of the Ripper's victims. You can see her in the Boiling Point TV series at the moment as well. She's an absolutely first-class, fantastic actress. I can't praise her enough. So you've got a couple of people in this who went on to, being really big things. Julia Ellis is also an actress I knew back in the day, and I met her just after she filmed this. So you'll catch her in this, and she's been in a few things. I think she's very underrated, and it's a bit of a shame that we haven't seen her in more stuff. So the main difference with This Is Personal over The Long Shadow is really that this is the story of the police investigation and the different conflicts within it, and the different people trying to take it different directions, and then also people trying to excuse themselves from blame when those directions didn't work out. Now, you can see the whole thing on YouTube. It's on there, and I think I've already put the link for This Is Personal down in the description. Sorry, guys, I missed the people that popped up in chats. Keith E was here. Like most things on here, I'm here to learn and know absolutely nothing about this subject. These two dramas are perfect for you, Keith. And if you were going to watch one first, I would say watch The Long Shadow first. Stop it. This might sound mad, but stop it at episode 4. Then watch This Is Personal. Stop it half an hour before the end. Then watch the rest of The Long Shadow, and then watch the rest of This Is Personal. That's how I would watch it if you've not seen either of them. TNTV reactions. I'm here learning to watch, learning to see what I need to watch next. Well, both of these come with a very strong recommendation from me. I think I've already rated this. No, I haven't. Okay, I'll do that in a sec. RRTNZ, greetings from New Zealand. Always great to be able to catch Lance's stream. Am I a fan of rugby? I am not a fan of rugby. I'm not a fan of sports generally. But listen, dude, if I was in New Zealand and I could go and see a rugby game, I would. So I can feel my nose is getting blocked up again already. Desert Phoenix is here. Fantastic. So I want to talk about Alun Armstrong because he's an actor who doesn't get enough, in my view, he doesn't get enough praise. He probably does within the actual community. Everybody in the industry knows who he is, but I think public at large, maybe not so much. Now, I have followed Alun's career since he was in A Bridge Too Far. And if you want to see who he is, he's one of the two paratroopers who they go to destroy the pillbox with the flamethrower. And, well, you knocked me arm, didn't you? Now I'll never bloody get out of here. That bit. So he's great in White Hunter Black Heart as well, which is a really good Clint Eastwood movie that a lot of people haven't seen. Reminds me, must do a stream on that. And there he is again. He is still around. And I have written to him before. I've invited him to come and see shows of mine, and he has replied, which is very kind of him. But he's an amazing actor. His son, Joe Armstrong, is also an actor. And I mean, Alun's had an incredible career. He is also in Our Friends in the North, and I'm going to be talking about Our Friends in the North next Saturday week. So tomorrow I'm doing Cutthroat Island, trying to get a cast member from Cutthroat Island to come on tomorrow. Pretty tall order on a Saturday night. I have had one and I've spoken to, but they said if I wasn't doing it on a Saturday night, so maybe I'll get them back, but for an industry interview with them. But anyway, I'm trying to get someone. So on TNZ, Alun must have a massive filmography. He's one of those guys that's in almost everything. Memorable presence. Yeah, man. I mean, he's got 152 IMDb credits. He's the dad in Breeders, which is his latest thing, and that's a great show, by the way, which I could also quite happily put in the best of British dramas. It's a drama comedy, but I am going to be I'm not limited to focusing on the serious stuff. Alun Armstrong is fantastic in this. It's one of his best performances, playing the frustrated Oldfield, because he's surrounded by a conflicting team, most of whom don't like him. And again, David Morrissey plays the same role. Now, I think that they both play the role and they interpret the character slightly differently. Credit to them. And I'm sure Morrissey will have seen this film when it came out, or the two-part series, because it's two, like I said, two sort of feature film length episodes, around 100 minutes each. So it's a credit to both of the actors that they're actually both quite different in the way that they interpret the character and the way that they play the nuances of the character. And Morrissey is a lot more subtle with many of his frustrations and underplays them a bit more. Whereas Alun Armstrong plays him as a no-nonsense northerner, which I suspect was probably closer to the truth. I think Morrissey is going more for the acting props. No disrespect to either of them. I think both of those choices are really good. I think they're both fantastic in the show. I just do love Alun Armstrong. So now, so you're probably wondering which is better. And I said at the beginning of the stream, it's really not a case of which is better, because there isn't one show is not better than the other with The Long Shadow. And the Long Shadow has a couple of strengths that This Is Personal doesn't have, but by virtue of the title, This Is Personal, it's about the personal battle that George Oldfield had with his conviction that he wanted to catch the Ripper while he was still, before he retired. It severely impacted his health. He was a chain smoker, as were most of the police back then. And he died not long after the case was concluded, I think within a couple of years. And one other policeman died before the case was concluded during the 4-year investigation. So, but I think you get a much broader sense of the impact on the victims with The Long Shadow, and you get a deeper sense of the conflicts within the police with This Is Personal. So I think they're both good. Now, this is a new segment on my channel, The Best of British. It is going to have a funny intro with Gary Bolter at the beginning. I am going to be focusing on British television dramas exclusively in this segment, and I'm going to be focusing purely on ones that are good. This segment will not be about bashing anything, and there are so many good British dramas to talk about, including ones that lots of people probably haven't seen. So I thought it would be a great section to do. What makes a great drama? Now, I took the word British out there because the requirements, as far as I'm concerned, are exactly the same as for anything else. It's got to have a good script. It's got to have a good story. It's got to have good actors. And then after that, then I look at the technical proficiencies, like how it's shot, music, editing, all of those things. But above all, number one, script, cast, acting standard. Those are the first three things for me, and direction. And both of these shows are, they're both top class. So I'm going to rate. I'm going to rate the Alun Armstrong. This Is Personal. So I gave The Long Shadow 9 out of 10. I will give This Is Personal 8 out of 10. Simply because I think, for an overview of the entire story, This Is Personal gives the viewer a bit more. But that's not to say, now there are some details and screw ups and things that are made in the case that are covered in This Is Personal that are not covered in The Long Shadow, and there are some in The Long Shadow that are not covered in This Is Personal. So, and remember, This Is Personal starts 2 years in, which is why I suggested that odd running order of how you might want to break up your watching of these shows. But yeah, so in short, from me, before I wrap up, these are two fantastic British dramas, extremely well written and directed. I need to give credit to those people, actually. Sorry, I'm usually pretty good at that sort of thing. It's just because I'm so bunged up. So This Is Personal, directed by Dave Richards, written by Neil McKay. Neil McKay is a writer that you guys would know. He has recently directed The Reckoning, which is the Jimmy Savile drama. We'll be talking about that very soon. He also did 4 Lives, which was about the girls being murdered in and around Ipswich. Exceptionally good drama. He did The Moorside, also very good. And See No Evil, the Moors murders. I'm funny, when I'm reading this spot, I'm thinking, man, this guy has the job that I wanted. Because when some of these things were happening, I was thinking, oh, someone's going to do a drama about that. And how do I get that job? And this is the guy. This is the guy who's got those jobs. He's also a producer. So, yeah, Neil McKay is who did This Is Personal. In terms of Oh, sorry, I'll just go back to the director for a second. David Richards directed all 4 episodes. He has done Conviction, Silent Witness, Vera, Foyle's War, In Denial of Murder, to name but a few things. So that's David Richards, sadly no longer with us, passed away in 2017. The writer-directing team on The Long Shadow, I don't think I shouted out Michael McHatton. You will know him from Game of Thrones, and he plays the boss in The Long Shadow. What a fantastic actor. I mean, he's an actor that's only been on my radar probably for the last 10 years. And in that time, the performances that he's given are nothing short of phenomenal. I mean, this guy is just amazing. It's quite incredible just how fantastic he is. But I mean, he really is first class, you know. I highly rate him. And of course, many of you will remember him from Game of Thrones. And here I am scrolling through his pictures, thinking there must be a Game of Thrones picture here. But no, there's lots of shots of pizzas. Ah, here we go. So yeah, of course, he's plays the Ramsay father in Game of Thrones. Fantastic actor, really good in The Long Shadow. I rate him extremely highly. So the writing directing team behind The Long Shadow, I will confess I hadn't checked. I mean, don't forget I watched it in the wee hours of the morning. Okay, it's all directed by Lewis Arnold. It's based on a book by Michael Bilton, written by George Kay. Yeah. So George Kay has done a number of well-known television series. He recently did Hijack, which is on my list of things to watch, but I haven't watched it yet. Lupin, which is a series I absolutely love. He did the Litvinenko miniseries. Very good if you haven't seen it. That's another one I could easily put on this show. He's did all the episodes of Criminal by the looks of it, or most of them. The Tunnel, yeah, okay. So you know he's done a fair few first class shows. George Kay. And the director, Lewis Arnold, also a name I'm familiar with. I think you'll find he's done a number of substantial TV productions. Yeah, so he also did Sherwood. He did Time, of course, Des, which is, you know, absolutely mind-blowing. Broadchurch, Humans, Prey. So, yeah, he's done a number of things that I've really enjoyed. And, you know, long may that continue. So, first class team, also on The Long Shadow. All right, so guys, my voice is dying. I think that's it from me for the first episode of The Best of British. Now, normally I'll be doing these with a British co-host or an American co-host who I will be educating, saying, look at this wonderful stuff you should watch. That doesn't mean that I'm going to stop doing American dramas. I absolutely am. I still aim to do the entire series of The Shield. That's something it's my favorite show of all time. I really want to get into that at some point. It's a question of time. And I also like doing these things live and with co-hosts. So it's all about getting other people around as well. Good to see you, David Morrissey. So, guys, that's it from me. I'm going to be on Retro Nerd Girls channel in about an hour. No, less time, probably. Soon. So catch me over there. But I think I'll be off camera because I need to be drinking Lemsips and that sort of thing. In the meantime, don't forget to tell the people that you care about that you love them. And I'll see you all again real soon.